Hello everyone, my name is Clément Gignac. Over the next 2-3 minutes, I want to talk about longevity risk. First, let me define longevity risk. Longevity risk is in fact the possibility that you will stay alive much longer than what you thought, but unfortunately outlive your assets. So basically, you suddenly rely on your family or government money to pay your daily expenses. So that's a very interesting environment. So let me present you some charts here. The first one is about life expectancy when you have 65 years old. So here you have, for example, more than 75% probability that Mr. Smith or Madam Smith, for example, will reach 80 years old. Interestingly enough, if you have a couple, for example, Madam Smith and Mr. Smith, 50% probability that one of them, more than 50% probability that one of them will be still alive at 90 years old. So we talk about here 25 additional years from now. It's interesting. So, but you know, the economic and financial environment is so different than, for example, when your father has reached or your mother has reached 65 years old. For example, in 1990, at that time, the interest rate, we talk about double digit. Of course, inflation was a little bit higher. We talk about 4 or 5%. But when you have double digit nominal rates, that you just have real rates of 4 or 5%. So why you will invest in the stock market, for example? You could have a GIC risk-free assets with real rates, very interesting. And at that time, in addition, grandfather Smith, life expectancy was lower than now. But now, Mr. Smith, who has reached 65 years old right now, have to deal with low interest rate environment. And more important, interest rate is even lower than inflation as we speak. So in such circumstances, from my point of view, it would be completely premature to sell all your stocks and equities and go to the GIC. So that's the reason, because you know, the longevity risk, from my point of view, it's a bigger risk for most of us than market risk if you have a long-term time horizon. But bottom line, since each of us have a different risk tolerance, have different time horizon, I really invite over the coming year to discuss with your financial assets about the longevity risk. Have a good day.